Hello fine people, it's me, Hannah the Fortune Teller. Hello, today's video I'm going to tell you what books I think are overhyped or books that I just freaking hate. This was actually a requested video from quite a few people, said I should make one of these. I wasn't going to because I thought the Booktube army are going to hate me and I'm going to like die, but yeah, I really wanted to, so I don't know. Mum, start planning my funeral. No, but for real, for real. Okay, so first up, a book that I think is so overhyped on Booktube is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I read this, I enjoyed it. I hated the Simon Snow bits. I thought they were unnecessary. I thought they were quite long and boring, but the rest of the book I thought was fine. It was a fine book about this socially awkward girl going to college. Completely fine. Is it a book that's like the best book on Booktube and everyone should read and it's incredible? No. Like no. I've said before, I hate this obnoxious bright colour thing that, you know, I get the idea because then when you go in a bookshop you see it and you're like, oh, it's bright, but it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. I hate this rubbery cover on it. It was an okay book, but it's not like book of the year. I then have a classic, Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. This was again an okay book. It's about Sylvia's life. So the beginning bit of it, she wins competition with loads of other girls and they go to New York and she's kind of a bit lost and she's walking around the streets of New York and you've got to get the feel that she is lost because later on she's going to end up in a mental hospital and you know that, so you want to see the build up. It was so long, like she was walking around the streets of like New York, page after page after, I was like, okay, I get it, she's lost, she's like a wanderer. Okay, cool. Page after page, like, it literally didn't stop. This isn't a complete trash of her, but when people say, oh, you've got to read The Bell Jar, it's such an important book. Is it? She's just pissing about in New York. That's all she's doing. I think this is massively overhyped. Now for another Booktube favourite. The Duff. Oh, by Cody Kebler. I've made a whole video on this just saying how it's a terrible book. I like tag different things. These are all the examples of why this book is crap. Okay, there you go. Then another Booktube favourite, Asking for It by Louise O'Neill. Again, I've made a whole video on this book, why it is so crap and naive and just poorly structured. It's as if Louise O'Neill doesn't live in the real world and she doesn't understand. And I thought it was poorly written. It's kind of double standards in it as well, where our main character tries to force herself on this boy, and when he's like, oh sorry, I don't want to do anything sexual, she's like, oh fuck off then. She gets really aggressive with him and it's like, what? Like, this whole book is about don't pressure people into sex, that's really out of order, don't slut shame them, don't like do any of that horrible vicious stuff, and yet our main character does it to a boy and it's like, oh well, he's a boy so it doesn't matter. Now for one that's really controversial. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Hear me out. I think this is really overhyped because of the way it ends and everything like that, and I think the portrayal of Daisy is awful. So this is about kind of the American dream. I actually feel bad slagging this off because I had to write an essay on this to get into university, and I understand it's so clever, like the colour imagery. So Daisy at the end of her porch has a green light. It's not just a green light. Green obviously is about money and this is about the American dream. Green also represents envy. He's envious of Tom because he wants Daisy. Like, it's so clever, it's so well thought out. Everything around Daisy is green because it's real money, it's real wealth, whereas around Gatsby it's like gold and silver and gaudy and new money. I get it, I get that whole thing. I just think the portrayal of Daisy is that Daisy is a massive bitch and that she's really horrible. For Daisy, she fell in love with Gatsby. Gatsby then pissed off for years, and so she married Tom and she's now had a child with Tom, of which Gatsby never mentions this child. He doesn't care that she's got a daughter, even though Daisy mentions it quite a few times in the book. And I just feel like F. Scott Fitzgerald wanted to paint Daisy as she should have waited for Gatsby. She should have like divorced Tom when Gatsby came back, you know, true love, and it's just so naive. That's not how the world works. You can't just divorce someone, especially in that kind of time. Women couldn't do that. So I don't like the portrayal of Daisy, and I thought the writing was really good. That again, I just didn't connect with it. Now for The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Didn't like this. It's about a man that dies and he goes to heaven and he meets 5 people that tell him stuff about his life. so some stuff he didn't know about his life and what impact he had on people. I felt like this was just about the war. They could remarket this and say this is about the war, and When a Man Goes to Heaven is just going to tell you stories about the war. Again, I didn't connect with it. I liked the last one with the little girl. The rest of it, war, war, war. I also thought it was very cliche, so there was stuff like soaring like an eagle and just cliche sayings in there that I was a bit like, ugh. Hello Celia Ann, how you doing? A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Now, this is the unillustrated version, and Patrick Ness did not come up with this storyline at all. So someone called Siobhan came up with the storyline. Her name was Siobhan Dowd. She died of cancer before she could write the story. The story is about a monster that visits a little boy, but the little boy's mum's ill, and it's all about that. I think the storyline of it, wow, out of this world, phenomenal. I think Patrick Ness's writing, simplistic. I thought I was reading, a child had written something and was reading it back to me. I just didn't like it, and that's why I don't like modern children's fiction, because I feel like it has this, it feels like a child's writing to me. Whereas in stuff like Mary Poppins by P.O. Travis, she uses huge words, she's not going to tell you what they mean, like use a dictionary. Siobhan's idea was golden, Patrick Ness's writing, simplistic. And now my bitch onslaught is nearly over. I just have 2 more books. I have Suicide Notes. This is by Michael Thomas Ford. I spoke about this recently. This was really crap, like really simplistic. And last but not least, I have The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. I spoke about this before and I've said I think the plot of this, phenomenal. I think Muriel Spark's writing, fantastic. But it was slow. I really just thought this was like a waste of an opportunity, because I know Muriel can write, because you're reading it, you're like, this is really good, but then she gave herself too many characters, so I felt like the plot was so thinly spread. Whereas if you'd had half that amount of girls, you could have gone more in depth, it would have been more beautiful, and it would have really worked. So this is more like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed in you. And that's it, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. When I read some more books that I hate, then I'll do a video on them. Obviously the main book that I hate, I've said before, is called A Hidden Cottage. That book is crap. That is such a bad book. I can't even like bring myself to talk about it, but I threw it away, like I hate it. But A Hidden Cottage is currently being promoted in WH Smith. When you see it, like spit at it, like throw it on the floor. It's an awful book. But anyway, oh, I feel better. This has been like a counselling session. Leave down below the books that you think are overhyped and books that you just hate. Also, if you're going to thumbs down this video because you didn't like my opinions on one of these books or something, leave a comment and tell me why you're thumbsing down or why you disagree with me just before you do it, you know. Don't be a coward. I hope this book video wasn't too bitchy, although it probably was, but I still love you. I hope you still love me. Together we will fly free. I won't touch you, sorry. I'm not very good with boundaries.